everybody. Welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie, Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie, Jessica.
So it's that time again. It's time for our 1-minute book recs. This is where we go over all the books that we read in the past week with 1-minute synopsises for each book.
But first, hit that subscribe button so you can win these books. When we get to 1,500, we will be giving those away. Follow us on Instagram for an extra entry.
All right. So how was your reading week?
I've had some 5 stars. I got 6 books in. I read some big books this week. So I was impressed that I managed to do 6.
So I think I had 4 or 5 stars. I read 9 books, but 2 of those books you and I both read this week. So I'm going to let you talk about them because is that included in your 6?
One is not.
All right. So then let's get started.
All right, Jessica.
So
I
have a book. I felt really bad about this book because I read it actually before we left on our trip, and I forgot to talk about it last week, and I was so upset about this, but last week being just a few days ago because we recorded late because I was gone, so but that's okay. All right, so this is.
I hope you learned your lesson about being gone.
I did.
Good.
Okay, so this was Grace McGinty's newest release. This is Make My Heart Race. This she sent to me as an ARC. Oh my gosh, I loved this book. I always love everything Grace does, but the way she does this is so different. Her heroines are strong without being obnoxious, and I love it. So this is about Tally. Tally is a Formula One race car driver. She is a girl in a man's world, basically. You've got all the guys with their complexes and all the stuff, but she is racing her car. She's at the beginning of our book, she starts out, she is in a relationship with one of the other race car drivers that she's racing with, and they're on the same team, and something happens to cause her and him to be parted, and she is then kicked out of Formula One because of circumstances at this one race. And then we see her a handful of months later, and she is just trying to figure out what she's going to do, how she's going to survive, because she doesn't have any more money, or barely any money, and she has a certain little predicament that's growing in her oven that she can't hide too much longer. She had a what they call the pregnancy where nobody knows what it is. Not like a mystic pregnancy. It's a she didn't realize she was pregnant until she was really far along. And then that's where she ends up, she has a street race one night, and that is where she ends up meeting a couple of our guys that are also into racing. One is motorcycle, like he's like on a crotch rocket motorcycle. And one was her mechanic when she was doing her thing when she was in Formula One. So 5 stars, loved it. It also brought in some of the characters that we've seen in like 8 Seconds to Fly and in not Paper Heart. No, 8 Seconds to Fly. Oh, and the Daymakers, her Rockstar one. So we saw some of those characters. So it kind of brought the world together there.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it is Why Choose, guys. It's Grace. Yeah. I love the racing stuff too. You would have laughed. I thought about you a lot when they were trying to decide what to name the baby. And she wanted it to be like paying homage to her love of racing. And I was like, oh, been here, done that.
All right.
All right. So what was your first book of the week?
Okay, my first book of the week was Irresistible Rogue by Jane Diamond. And my cursor's in the wrong spot. Okay. So this is about Shane and Jolie. So the book starts off with Shane and Jolie hooking up for basically like a one-night stand. Shane leaves Jolie a note in the morning that greatly offends her. And we jump forward 4 years into the future, and she has made the discovery that of who he was. He is her mom's fiance's son. He's a fighter, so he's kind of known around for like his underground fighting and stuff. And she determines that he only did this to mess with her because their parents are getting married. But this happened 4 years ago, and now 4 years in the like present time, the parents are just now getting married, which was weird to me, but because the engagement party was happening in that prologue. So 4 years later, the parents are going to get married. So they are forced back into each other's orbit. And it says it's enemies to lovers and that he's an anti-hero. And I just didn't see that. This book is a bigger book, and it was a lot of like BJs and stuff like that, like continuously. And I didn't really see the draw between the two characters. I didn't see the angst or the drama. Maybe I don't know, maybe I missed it. So I only rated it 3 stars. I liked it,
It
but
just wasn't what you were expecting.
yeah,
Yeah.
just isn't like, so I really liked Dirty Like Me.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't really liked a lot, like I haven't loved a lot of the other books. So maybe Jane Diamond just isn't
Yeah, maybe.
for me. I don't know. So anyways,
Okay. All right.
moving on.
Move on. Okay, so the next book I did, I promise it's my only reread this week, but I read a really crappy mafia. Quiet. Read a crappy mafia book the week prior, right at the last week, and I needed something mafia. Like I was just feeling it, and we were camping, and I needed something. So I did a reread of Twisted Bonds by Cora Riley, because I needed what was in this book. So I'm going to tell you about it if you haven't got here. So this is the 4th book in the Kimura Chronicles. This is the second book. This is Nino and Kiara's second book. So Nino and Kiara have the book number 2 in the Kimura Chronicles. So if you haven't read that, you probably shouldn't be reading this one. And if you haven't read the one that comes just before that, which is Twisted Hate, is that his book? Just read the suckers in order. 2, 3, and 4 need to go in order. But anyhow, so this is Nino and Kiara. This takes place right after the end of their first book, and it's basically just more of their marriage evolving. They're dealing with things. They want to have a baby. She's not able to get pregnant. We see some of the stuff from book 3 with Serafina. So we see a lot of stuff that happens from Kiara's point of view with Remo and Serafina during their book. So this is just, I love this book because it's their relationship and the building of their relationship. It's not so much mafia as it is their relationship and the things that they go through. And I just love them as a couple. So I had to do it. I needed it. I did it. I'm done. All right. So what else you got for us?
Okay, my next book is A Hero to Keep by Susan Gable. Okay, so this is about Shannon. Shannon just got custody of her nephew, and she was not prepared for this. Her sister was murdered by her husband, and so she gets the little boy. She's not really been around him. She doesn't know much about kids, but she's determined to help him. And he has stopped speaking because they believe he witnessed his dad kill his mom. So he's not speaking. So she is pretty desperate to help him. So she takes him to Greg, who is doing a art therapy program through comic books and things like that. And she goes to observe, and she just kind of thinks he's crazy. But then her nephew's grandparents of the dad who allegedly murdered the sister, want custody of the boy, and they believe that nothing happened, like that the dad did not do this, that their son would not do this. And so when they come in to try and get custody, she moves forward with this art therapy program, and that's how her and Greg start to have some insta love. But really good story. I mean, obviously there is some definite deep trauma, but the story between the main characters is a very sweet story. It is in third person. I listened to it on audio and I really enjoyed it. I find I can do third person audiobooks pretty well if they're written well. I have a much harder time reading third person. So, anyways, 4 stars.
Okay, cool. All right. My next one, I had heard about a lot in it was suggested in a group for a rock star romance. Or maybe for Secret Baby. I can't remember. It was for one or the other. So I was so excited to get to this. It's like a duet, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. It is reverse harem, but whatever. So I picked it up as we were driving home from Leavenworth, and let me tell you. Okay. So this is Bitter Notes by Allie Beck. This is the first book in the duet. No, I didn't read the second book, and no, I'm not going to. So real quick, let me just tell you. So this is about our heroine, who is River. She's been raised on the other side of the tracks. Her best friend, while she was growing up, got to move to the ritzy side of town, and now he has a band. She's like 19. She's a manager at a bar. I don't understand how that, like a club bar kind of thing where there's rock bands that come in. Her father, so she's the illegitimate daughter to some big music mogul, and she hasn't used her father's last name until just recently. And the band comes there. This boy and his band come to the place. They play. She screws one of them in the back room. Who does? It's the boy. It's the guy who's her best friend who doesn't remember her. And then the band decides they're going to do whatever they can to get in her pants so that they can get a one up with her dad and make it big. So that's pretty much the start of the story. I had a really hard time with it. I gave it 2.5 stars because I hated it. She starts out going, I love screw. I just like to have like 5 guys at one time. I'm like, girl, are you serious? You're 19. Like, that is some wild stuff.
Isn't that when you're supposed to be doing that stuff?
I guess. I don't know. When I was 19, I didn't like myself enough. Like, I wasn't comfortable. I was still a virgin at 19, let's be honest. Anyhow, but like, she was very hard, a very harsh heroine. And I didn't see why, other than just wanting their contract, which she had no contact with her dad. We knew this. But all these guys wanted her, and guys from the outside of that group as well. Why? She was just a very harsh heroine. I had a very hard time with it. I didn't like it. It wasn't what I was told it was going to be. Okay, it wasn't as great as everybody's like, it was so great. I'm like, obviously we read a different book. So, moving on.
Okay. Well, my next book comes from, I haven't had a 5-star read in a while. And I wanted something that was really going to make me feel, and that was going to give me the 5-star that I'd been looking for. And I was looking for angsty and emotion and all that. So I decided to post a little thing on Instagram, and I'm like, with all my books back here, like, I'm a mood reader. So of course I have all these books. I can't decide what to read. And I'm like, give me some angsty books, people. So one of our dear subscribers suggested I read this book. And she forgot to tell me how much it was going to ruin me.
And I'm wondering if it's the one that I was told to read too, and I haven't yet, even though it's on my Kindle.
So I read it, and I cried a lot.
And I wasn't even there for moral support. I was gone, wasn't I?
I think so. I think I texted you that I couldn't stop crying
Yes.
while I was reading this book.
Yes, yeah. All right, so tell us about this book.
Let's talk about it.
Okay,
so I'm talking about Maestro by Auden Dar. This is about Chad, and I mean, we can just appreciate Chad for a long time. Like, that could be my entire minute. But, so we have Chad and Aurelia. Aurelia, hopefully I'm saying that right. They meet when they are young kids. I think she's only 13, and they meet at an elite music school audition. And he gives her some advice, and she decides to take it, and she gets in. And they end up starting a friendship, and their friendship goes over a long course of time. And as they get older, it evolves into them being boyfriend, girlfriend. And she always I got the feeling she always kind of felt like maybe she wasn't completely worthy of him because she grew up very different. He grows up in this like very somewhat supportive household with a significant amount of money. She grows up with a single mom and a dad who's not really in her life at the time. And their story spans decades, and there's a lot of interference, and there's a lot of frustration on the reader's part with all the angst. And oh my gosh, I loved it. So this was a solid 5-star, going on my favorites list. Hysterical crying at times.
Mm-hmm. That is the one that she told me to read too, that I have on my Kindle.
I love it.
Did you listen to the audio? Or
Hmm?
did you read it? Did you listen to it or read it?
I did both. I
Okay.
did the
The read
what's it
along.
called? Whisper sync.
Yeah, where you can. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So audio was good. Book is good.
Okay.
Loved it.
Okay. Awesome.
And again, the cover.
Yeah, I have a feeling he's blonde, which doesn't do it for me. I know he is because he's on one of Cora Riley's books. So you look at him. I'm gonna pretend he's a brunette, okay?
The model.
I think at least the blonde highlights in the front. If I remember.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like darker.
I think this part up here is blonde on him, but
I can't remember how he was described.
that's okay. I picture him all dark haired anyway, no matter how the author describes him. That was very confusing when I was reading A Court of Thorns and Roses and she describes Tamlin as a blonde.
I'm doing a reread.
You haven't even reread Birthday Girl. Are you kidding me? Honestly, I haven't reread Birthday Girl either. Okay.
I started because you told me to do a reread of some of my favorite books, but to listen to them instead. So I started Don't Kiss the Bride, and it's really good, but I stopped because
you're scared.
I don't know. I don't know.
You don't have to. Not everybody rereads.
Yeah, stop trying to pressure me into rereading just because you reread every book you've ever read like 10 times.
I was just telling you if you want to and you hadn't listened to audio that you could. I wasn't pushing you to do it.
Tell them how many times you've read Twisted Bonds.
I don't know. Not total?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Twice this year, and I think 3 or 4 more times.
Yeah.
You reread a lot. I liken it too, though, that like when I can put on like a Friends episode while I'm doing like I'm a teacher, so I can correct papers, and like I'll stop when like it gets to like really good parts that I really want to watch, but then it's kind of like background.
Yep.
So I liken it to that, where I could not just sit down with nothing else to do and rewatch Friends.
Yep. Yeah, and that's typically how it is. When I do
unless I'm sick. If I'm really sick, then
you want the comfort.
But yeah.
When I do a reread, I'm typically doing something else, and I know that I can listen to it, still get the story, not miss anything, so I already know what's happening. Or I just get in that mood where I really want that. It's like watching your favorite movie for a second time.
I also just want to point out this was a really big book.
Yeah.
Lots of emotion. And did I show you the cover?
No. Okay, so ready for my next book?
Yes.
Okay.
I reread.
No, I didn't do any more rereads this week.
I'm just teasing you. Teasing you, and I shouldn't have, because it's totally fine if you want to reread books.
Yeah, it's like a comfort thing. It's all good.
Jessica and I just pick on each other because that is part of the fun of our relationship.
It is.
Never knowing when the other one's gonna bully us.
It's a very healthy relationship we have here. So my next book was one that was sent to me by, I'm not sure who, because nobody has ever fessed up to it, but it's Carnage by Chantal Tessier. This is the 4th book in her Lord series. So let's talk about this one. I was excited for this one because this is like the I can't really call them brothers. I don't know, the Spade brothers, which these guys we've heard a lot about in this world. And so I was so excited for this book. But this is about Ashton and Saint, who is one of the Spade brothers, even though they're not blood brothers. They're referred to as the Spade brothers. They're the ones that get things done at Carnage. And they're the ones that, like, when you enter Carnage, you never leave. Like, they will torture you until you die, kind of thing. Like, these guys are ruthless. And so you have Ashton, who becomes Saint's lady. And so if you remember anything from, if you read any of these books, you know that the lady is assigned to the Lord for a year, and he can do whatever he wants with her. And so she becomes his lady. He has been obsessed with her for years. He manipulated it so that she would be his lady. So you have some stalkery, over the top possessive type situations going on here. And then once she becomes his lady, she sees something major happens, and she ends up having to be taken in at Carnage, and she's kept as one of their kept prisoners, although he does everything he can to keep her with him. And then something happens and they're separated for a while, and then he has to hunt her down and find her. We've seen bits and pieces of that in the earlier books. So yeah, he hunts her down and finds her. So 5 stars. I
was just gonna say, when you're like, he hunts her down and finds her, 5 stars.
Exactly. He has to hunt her down and find her and drag her back by the hair. 5 stars. Done. So I loved it. I love this world. I know it's getting really popular. I mean, it wasn't when we first started reading it, or when I first started reading it, but now it's very popular, this whole series. But love it. I don't love it enough to stand for hours in a line at Love in Vegas to see her, because it was too long of a line, but I still love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had other books to buy.
All right.
What else you
You
got?
did.
What?
Not to buy, to pick up your pre-orders.
To pick up. I already purchased them. I had to pick them up. Yeah. Yep.
But shockingly, compared to a lot of people, you did not have a lot.
No, and I thought I did.
You did.
I did. Packing that was not fun. Packing them home. But some people had hundreds. More than 100. Yes. Blow my mind.
Anyway, so my next book, Jessica, is by Kate Rivenhall, who we just did an author interview with, and that will be out on Wednesday, May 15th.
Yes.
So if you're watching this before Wednesday, May 15th, set your alarm and go check it out on Wednesday. And if you're seeing this after that date, go check the video out. She was so much fun, and we learned a lot of good information about her and about her books. So you're definitely going to want to check it out, because even if you're not a huge fan of these particular style of taboo books, she has a lot more that you really want to hear about.
Yes, exactly. All right.
Okay, the Parolee is what I read. So this is about Lily and Torin. And Lily is just living her life. She's engaged. She runs a bakery, and her life is just progressing just fine. And she gets a phone call from Nick saying that her brother is going to be getting out and he will be on parole. And he advises her to stay away from him because he doesn't think that he has actually been rehabilitated, but they're still going to let him out. So then Torin shows up, and let's just say Torin is very obsessive and possessive over his sister. And he is not happy that she's engaged, and he's not going to allow it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if you like the taboo sibling stuff, check this book out. If it's not for you, just skip this one, but still go check out the video, because there's other books that she has that are great.
Yeah, they're under a different pen name, and she gives that test too. What?
They're supposed to go watch the video and find out that shocking information.
Well, I didn't tell him the friggin' pen name.
Okay. So anyways, I rated it 4 stars solely based on that I went in it reading it, knowing it was taboo and knowing it was siblings. If I was rating this and comparing it to some other books, like, it just wouldn't compare. So the rating of the 4 is based on what it is. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right.
100%. Okay. So next.
Also, in case you haven't watched our show, I don't have siblings, so maybe that's why I can read it. Jessica, do you want to explain why you've read a lot of these books?
I don't know. I have siblings, but they're younger. And not a thing. It's not a thing.
All right.
All right. Okay. So the next book I read is by Samantha Christie. I'm not sure how well I'm going to do describing this book, but let's try it anyway because it's just really hard to describe. Okay, so this is Purple Orchids. Like I said, Samantha Christie is the author. This is the start of her Mitchell Sisters series. I've loved everything I've ever read by Samantha Christie. I've read several different series of hers, and I do like it. This one was supposed to be emotional, and there was some angst in it, but it wasn't like, you guys know I'm the Ice Queen. I'm sorry. So this is about Baylor and Gavin. So when the book starts out, Gavin is an adult and he sees Baylor, her picture at an event that he's at. He runs an entertainment or a movie. He makes movies or something, and he sees her picture on a flyer, and he has this moment of, oh my God, there she is, because she was his girlfriend at college and they were absolutely in love. And then she ripped his heart out. And then when he tells his buddies this, we go back in time and we see their relationship play out at college. And then it goes back to the future after a while. So this one is, I love it. She's different for him. He's raised, he's Texan royalty. He's from the South. She is just a girl, she's an English major. He was going for business because his dad is his dad's in politics. I can't remember what his dad was. And he felt like he had to do that. And she's the one that shows him that you don't have to, you make your own path, but something bad happens. And you're there. This is a friends to lovers to enemies to lovers, second chance romance. The reason why it was a 4 versus a 5 is I felt like the ending or the last half when we see them as adults was a little more rushed than I felt like it was rushed. It was a little rushed, but I still loved it. It was a great read.
My next book is Never Saw You Coming by S.L. Scott, and we will be seeing S.L. Scott at one of our upcoming events that we're going to.
I don't know which one.
I think it's Rain City or it's Vegas. I can't remember.
Okay, one of them.
Okay,
all right.
So this is about Tuesday and Locke. And Locke is going to get his coffee, pretty basic order that he gets at the coffee shop. And this lady is in front of him. And he just does not like her. She's like dressed really trendy, name brands. And he's just like, oh, she's so pretentious. And then she has this like insane coffee order with a particular temperature. And he's like, that figures. So they both exit the coffee shop and he hears a commotion and sees her getting mugged and kind of like thrown to the ground very brutally. So he intervenes and helps her and calls an ambulance and all of this. And he ends up going with her in the ambulance because he feels really bad just leaving her. Like he only knows her name is Tuesday because that's what the coffee order was for. And he gets to the hospital. He ends up leaving his number with the person, one of the nurses. And the nurse calls and lets him know the next day that she is being released. And when he shows up, he realizes she has nowhere to go. Like she doesn't remember who she is. She has amnesia. And so he ends up just some reason he has this pull to her. He doesn't quite understand it himself. And he ends up helping her. And we go from there. As everybody knows, I love a good amnesia story. I just love it so much. And this one did not disappoint. 5 stars.
Okay. All right.
I just love the angst that comes with it. Like, are they going to remember who they are? And if so, what was their other life like?
Yeah.
Are they married? Do they have a boyfriend? Do they have kids?
What's the deal? What's the deal?
Yeah.
All right. So my next book, I read this series a few weeks ago. I started with the prequel novella to this series. And this is the one that's by M.L. Marion, and it is the one about the Sabine women. Like it's based on that, like 7 Brides for 7 Brothers kind of thing. Just capture yourself a wife, right? And I started the second book. And I was reading it. I was enjoying it. But I happened to look and see what are the last 2 books or the next 2 books in this series about. I got to the fourth one. They can all be read as standalones. The fourth one takes us back in time to the 1800s, to the Wild West. And I was like, I'm putting down number 2 and I'm picking up number 4 right now. And that is what I did. So let's talk about that one.
So you didn't finish number 2?
I did, but it will be in next week's because I finished it late last night. So yeah. Okay. Ready?
Okay.
Okay. So this is named, it's like I said, by M.L. Marion. Oh my gosh, this book. Okay. So this is about Jedediah. He is out to find, he's on his horse. He is going from going to the neighboring towns, and he is looking for his woman, the woman he is going to lasso and bring home to his homestead, because that is how the men in his family find their women. They capture them, they force them to marry them, and then they keep them. So that's what he does. Well, he's in this neighboring town, and he sees this girl. She is called Girl. She does not speak. She lives with a drunk, abusive stepfather. Her mother passed. She is 18, 19. I can't remember how old she is. When she was 5, her mom died, and her stepdad was so cruel and horrible to her that he didn't want to hear her crying over her mother. So he injured her neck in a way that she can't speak. And so everybody in town thinks she's dumb because she doesn't speak, and she's never been to school. She's never had learning. She's never been taught about the ways of the world. She's never been taught about men and women. She's extremely naive. And so her dad is actually one night drunk at the bar, and he is trying to sell her to people. And so that is where Jed steps up and is like, nope, I'll take her. I'm going to marry her. The priest or the pastor was right there in the saloon. And so he marries her. When I tell you that she doesn't know things, like she doesn't even realize that men and women have different genitals kind of things. She is extremely naive. He has kept her in this little bubble. And so I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. He takes her home, and he teaches her things, and it's funny to see those parts, but I know it's not a perfect book, but oh my God, it was so good. It was just so good. So she needed love. He gave her the love. I loved it.
That's
have I
horrible.
mentioned that I loved it? Obviously dark. Obviously you got to check triggers, but loved it.
Yeah, jeez.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with people?
It's not a real story. It didn't really happen that we know of. Anyhow, yeah, definitely go read it.
I know, but that stuff does happen.
It does. It does. Yeah. There's some cruel things happening out there. But this book, I just loved it. So if you like that whole captor captive, her being mute, yeah, you know how I feel. Club them over the head and take them. Okay. What else you got?
Okay, so this is my last book.
And it's the one we read together.
Yes. So before you switch over, it is Daddy's Possession by BJ Alpha.
Mm-hmm.
And next week on our channel, we are having a BJ kind of week. And on Tuesday, the 21st, we will be airing our interview with BJ Alpha. On the 22nd, we will be airing, is that the right word? Dropping our video for our very first vlog.
Mm-hmm.
And we both read Daddy's Possession. We broke it up into chunks that we read, and then we got back on and talked about what we just read and what we thought might happen, and then continued, and we did that a few times throughout the book. So that will air or drop on the 22nd. And then on the 23rd, Daddy's Possession comes out, so you guys can grab that. So watch our vlog, read along with us, start it, watch the first part with the kinks, where we talk about all that stuff, what the book's going to be about, and then grab it the next day and then watch the vlog and read along with us. That would be so much fun, I think, for you guys to do with us. We had a lot of fun, so we'd love for you to join in on us with that. So that being said, I'm just going to tell you really quick what Daddy's Possession is about. Do you want to switch? Yeah, you do want to switch.
I did.
Okay, I'll set the timer then. So Daddy's Possession is about Raphael, who is Tommy's brother from Daddy's Addiction. And so this is book number 2 in Mafia Daddies, if I didn't already mention that. And Raphael goes to visit his brother Tommy, and Jade, Tommy's addiction. Sorry, Tommy's addiction, Jade, is there. And Raphael meets Jade's best friend, Ellie, and he decides that Ellie is literally coming home with him and going to be a nanny to his 3-year-old son. So he takes her home. And this book really surprised me because although there are more, like we joke about a kink bingo board with this book, there are so many. Oh, my timer didn't even start. Jessica switched me back
Okay.
over. There are so many kinks in this book, but it is plot intense. So lots of things happen. I don't want to give anything away. So join us on that vlog journey and next week for our BJ kind of week.
Yep. A BJ kind of week.
I loved it and rated it a 5-star.
Same. I loved it so much. Can't wait for the next one. Gave it 5 stars. I was very surprised by it's longer than Daddy's Addiction.
Yes.
And it's definitely plot driven. There is a lot more. And I mean, yes, it had all the crazy kinks, but it was just so good.
It was.
Yeah.
All right. So that wraps up my mostly 5-star week.
Yeah, you had a great week, but it doesn't wrap up my week. So let's talk about
know. Let's go.
So the next book that I read is for our Convincing series, which will be out on Thursday. And it is Mandy convinced me to read Cowboys. So I'm not going to talk about that one. We're just going to skip over that one, but go watch that video on Thursday to see what I chose and what I rated it. Okay. Then let's talk about my last book for the week. So this one is the book that we read for our buddy read. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it. And that is Fabric of Our Souls by K.M. Moranova. Before I start this, or maybe at the end, we'll tell them a little bit about the buddy read, how we've kind of changed it a little bit.
Okay.
All right. So let's talk about this. So this one, is about our heroine who is Wen. And Wen has a heart condition and she also is suicidal. And so after a situation that happens, her brother and her decide that she's in the hospital and they decide that she's going to go to this treatment facility. It is a different kind of treatment facility. It is very, what did they call it, man? Did you remember? Non-conventional treatment facility? Unorthodox. Yeah. So she's there and her roommate is a guy that she met at the hospital who was pretending to be a nurse. And so they share a room together, and apparently all the boinking happens in this facility. And so he is a masochist, she is suicidal, and this is their story. I'm not going to give you much more because you guys you gotta tune in to see what we all thought of it. But we did kind of change our layout a little bit. So our live show is going to be next Sunday, which is the 19th at 1:00 Pacific time on our channel.
Daylight Savings Time, Pacific time.
Yeah. Let's not confuse that.
PDT.
Yeah. But this book, when we first selected it, was in Kindle Unlimited. And then it was taken out of Kindle Unlimited at the beginning of this month. So because of that, we decided not to talk as much about the book, and we're going to answer some questions and do some fun stuff in the live show. Because if y'all can't, if you don't want to spend the money on it, then that's great. We fully understand that. So we'd like to have the books that we choose on Kindle Unlimited for everybody, but this one fell out. So yeah.
So join us for some bookish talks.
All right, guys. So that's it. That was it for me. Because you already talked about Daddy's Possession.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right. So give us some comments. Tell us, what have you been reading lately? What kind of videos do you want to see from us in the future for those tropes? Tell us just all the bookish things that are on your mind in the comments. We love interacting with you guys there. And make sure you check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us. And also hit that notification button so when we do drop extra videos like we're going to be doing during our week
of BJ,
you will get those notifications. You can also follow us on Instagram when we try and update when we drop extra videos over there as well. So yeah.
All right. All right. Wow. Okay. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.